Welcome to James Graham. Thanks for coming in, Jimmy. Some strong words there from you, and we'll get to you soon about that with Andrew Davey. Now, this was in response to your article, The Whistleblower.
Yeah.
It was a big story that you broke about the Bulldogs and about a current player in our game that was not happy with the culture there.
Well, just to background you, we're talking about a kid leaving Canterbury with a mental health issue, and it's now the subject of investigation, so I won't go there at the moment.
Buzz, can I interject there on the mental health issue?
Sure.
As a sufferer from depression and anxiety, I've been medicated for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. I don't expect any special treatment. I don't expect a free pass. And I'm not immune from criticism either.
Yeah.
And I don't expect a pass for not living up to standards because I have those issues.
Let me go further. So, when this story broke, which wasn't my story, by the way, Brent Reid was working on it, another journalist from one of the suburban newspapers, and they called me in and said, can you start ringing Canterbury players? I spoke to about 7 Canterbury players last Tuesday. A couple of them were muzzled by their managers. They're scared of Phil Gould. They don't want to tell the truth about what's happening at Canterbury. That's the truth. They're scared of him. I got to Andrew Davey. Andrew Davey didn't come to me. He didn't force his way into this dispute. I said, mate, you left. Why did you go? And he told me his story, okay? And he wasn't happy at the club. He didn't agree with Cameron Ciraldo's coaching methods. He didn't like it there. And this is a guy who'd been at a Pride jersey at Manly, so he left. So, now, what worried me, Jimmy, about you yesterday was, I think in stories like this, when we're trying to find out the process of what forced a player like the young fella to leave, not Andrew Davey, but the young bloke who's on leave now, we need to talk to people. And this guy spoke honestly, openly. And what you did, Jimmy, with respect, you belted him on radio yesterday. It was a good old spray. Now, what worries me about that is we should be encouraging people to speak up in situations like this. And the next kid who might have an issue at a club will think, shit, I'm not going to talk.
Yeah, but Buzz, hang on, I'm going to interject
you jump in.
All those other players that you spoke about that have got their issues with the Bulldogs, I would argue that they're players on the outer, and they speak to you and the other journalists with the proviso that it's anonymous, so they're not quoted. Now,
Andrew Davey put his name there. He had the courage to put his name there. He didn't hide behind sources.
So why do people look to criticise? When we lose...
Because I rang him and asked him what the story was.
When we lose or we don't get picked. The fact of the matter is, Andrew Davey came to that... For everything I said, I stand behind, because it was the truth.
Sure.
And Andrew Davey's
Who signed Andrew Davey?
He's got his perception of what happened.
Which he's entitled to express.
And he's entitled to express. And before yesterday, if anybody would have asked me about Andrew Davey and how come he left the Bulldogs, I would have replied with, look, I honestly don't know. He's a good kid. It didn't work out for him. I don't know what the issue was. But because he's publicly put his name to this, and he's gone in the paper and said it, he has then opened himself up for criticism. And because he left, let me tell you why he left. He left because he came to the club assuming he was going to be a walk-up starter.
How do you know that? How do you know he didn't go there and try and earn his position?
Because I work at the club, so I speak to people at the club. I'm not there on a day-to-day basis, but I know he came to the club assuming he was going to be a walk-up starter. Yes, he'd have to do some work, but he thought him and Kikau would be partnerships in the back row.
Can I bounce?
And let me finish. Let me finish. Then what happens is you've got Jayden Okunbor, who's an old winger, who plays a bit of back row, and then you've got this young kid who comes on the scene by the name of Jacob Preston.
Who signed Andrew Davey?
Well, what does it matter?
Well, someone's made a mistake. If you're talking him down like this...
No, I'm not talking him down. No, Buzz, you're wrong. I'm not talking... Can I finish my point? I'm not talking him down.
Yes, what I'm saying... him a new one yesterday,
What I'm saying is the reason he left is because he wasn't getting picked.
Okay,
and the reason he wasn't getting picked is because a 21-year-old outworked him and then embarrassed him.
And someone made a recruitment mistake signing him.
Yes, that's fine. So we all do.
Franklin Pele, Huey Brown, Aaron Shoup, Raymond Fatella Mariner, Ryan Sutton, Tavita Pangai Jr., who obviously wasn't enjoying it because he's decided to turn his back on $750,000 to go and fight, and this kid who's walked away to get mental health treatment. I've named about 8 players.
Yeah.
Why have they all failed? Why are they not happy there? That's what
Because they're losing.
And you know what?
Because they're losing.
But that's why
Because the club are losing.
That's why I made all those phone calls last week to try to find out.
Because you want to get to the bottom of it, but on the case, let's just tackle the issue of Andrew Davey. He didn't like it because he wasn't getting picked. He didn't like it because he thought he was going to get picked. That's why he left.
Well, he didn't say that to me. He said he didn't like the coaching.
Because that's the truth. He's not going to. He's not going to tell you the truth. He's not going to blame himself.
He's not going to say I didn't work hard enough.
Well, Parramatta signed him straight away.
He didn't say.
Manly had him during the Pride jersey.
There's no way I'm going to say I'm not good enough. I didn't work hard enough.
Yeah, but I
There's
feel sorry for
21-year-olds.
Andrew Davey here. He's the only player who's had the courage to talk up, put his name to a quote.
You know what, Buzz? Listen, it comes down to...
In terms of recruitment, like, people make mistakes with recruitment. There's no, like...
I've just given you 8 mistakes.
Okay, Melbourne Storm, they recruit Tarek Sims. It's not worked out. They've spent a lot
He
of
had
money
an
on...
outstanding game the other night.
Do you reckon they'll play this week?
I'm not sure.
I don't think he will.
He played strong.
Listen, it comes down to a winning culture. Now, yeah, they may have made some recruitment, some poor decisions and got it wrong, and they've picked the wrong players for the club, and they're working that out, obviously, and that's why they're flushing them out. If these players are not up to the standards that are set at training and cannot handle it, then it's in the best interest of everyone that they move on. Now, well, they want to keep these players now for another 12 months and be in a deeper hole in 12 months' time. The reality is,
So what, are they going to sign another
even the
Ray
first
Grove
story, even the first story you broke, there isn't a player I've spoken to that can comprehend how a player is late to training and still to now. Not a player.
What, do you really support someone having to wrestle the whole squad?
Yeah, and hang on.
What, you support that? The
Nobody
kid
is immune
couldn't
from
cope with
criticism.
it.
He could because he lasted the rest of the week.
Yeah, you know why? Because he was embarrassed and he didn't want to be. He didn't want to be spoken about as soft.
Treatment, Buzz.
The
Nobody gets
kid
special
has
treatment.
left the club on mental health leave because he couldn't cope with wrestling every single player who was fit.
Well, hang on.
And
I think
that's
those
true.
claims are
That's
embellished.
100% true.
I think those claims are
They're
embellished.
not embellished.
Well, my sources. Right. So let's look back. Let's strip it back. Why was it a wrestle session that he had to endure as his punishment? Because he was late for a wrestling session. Had he been late for a condition?
Was he late? I'm told he turned up 8 minutes after strapping start, was ready to go for training.
Were any other the player?
Does that mean you wrestled the whole squad?
We're all the rest of the team there on time. Were the rest of the team there on time?
I wasn't there, Jim. I don't know.
Well, what it seems to be provided with us, the information that we've got is they were. So they were there on time, but this particular player that we're talking about wasn't. Now, does that player need to be punished for being not being on time? So we're talking about culture here. What are you going to stand for as a football club?
I don't think.
What are you going to stand for as a football club? Should that be a standard you walk past?
This story has shown that a tough young fella couldn't cope with it. And I've heard you guys all say before, we'll go and play Oztag. I've heard you all say that, you know, if you're not strong enough. This kid could not cope with the punishment they put him through.
It's okay if rugby league's not for you.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay.
Okay, and here's another thing, Buzz. Here's another thing. They're not running a forced labour camp there. You have a decision about whether you want to be a footballer or not.
Yeah.
This isn't imposed on you. You don't have to do the wrestling session. You don't have to do it.
You did. He was ordered to do it.
Ordered?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm sorry. That
Can I
doesn't
ask you a
exist.
question?
That doesn't exist.
We're talking about Andrew Davey and we're talking about the kid who couldn't cope with the wrestle session. My point is this, and I made over the weekend, when is Cameron Ciraldo and Phil Gould going to put their hand up and say, maybe we didn't
I'm sure.
Well, I haven't heard them. They keep slamming the players. So does Willie. You know, Willie called them all soft the other day. Now, when are your coaching staff going to accept some responsibility for what?
They are
rather
trying
than
to
saying
build
this-
some things there with standards in
doing
place.
a very good job of it.
Well, again, are things going as well as what we would have liked? Absolutely not. But there's a reason the club signed him on a 5-year deal. A 5-year deal on a rookie coach, I think that speaks volumes. Perhaps what they're trying to do is set up systems and pathways in place so this doesn't happen again. And it's a long-term view. And all the resources don't go on to that 17-man
advice
squad.
to them is take more player welfare into consideration.
Buzz, I'm going to have to stop you there, because if you are accusing the football club of not prioritising well-being markers and mental health, you are way off the money.
I didn't say that. I said
Way
take
off the money.
player welfare into consideration.
They do. Every
They don't
step
take
of the way.
Look,
They
I
do.
don't want to sound like a broken record. A player has left the club. He's
Yes,
on, and I
because,
don't want to
well,
keep saying
mental
that.
health, it doesn't
And you've got 8
discriminate. It
players
doesn't
I've named
discriminate.
who don't want to be there, who are getting kicked out.
Mental
so
health.
it's not one off.
Mental health does not discriminate, and you are not. A lot of people don't know. It's a sign for people out there that if they are,
I know a lot about
speak
mental health.
Yeah, and so do
Yeah,
I. I suffer from it every single
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
But in terms of this culture, what they're trying to build, right? I read a report where it's like players are complaining about being there from 8 to 5 because if they're there till 5 o'clock, it's because they're the last massage. Right? We represent when you play for the
Have
Bulldogs.
you found anyone who's complained about being there 8 to 5?
That's what's been reported.
One player, Braith and Gordy and Jim.
Okay, well, hang on a minute.
Raymond Fatella Mariner went to the coach on behalf of some of the Polynesian boys, said they're finding it too tough, coach. Right?
Well, good. He's
He
got
was
the courage of his
complaining
convictions
about
to do that. But
Yeah,
Buzz, let me.
where's he been since? Hasn't been cited. Where's he playing now?
I don't, he's got
Well, they're going to kick him out.
He's got
He's
a
the club
history
captain.
He's
Who'll
got a
appoint him
history
club-
of injury.
But
He's got a
who's-
history
who's
of.
the- well,
let
who
me-
appointed him club captain? He went there on behalf of the playing group. Has not been cited since.
Yeah, and look, look,
Genuine
Buzz,
complaints.
couple of points I really want to stress. When I was a player, I didn't always get it right. I had my issues with the training staff at times, and we had it out, and I had the courage of my convictions. And also, as a player, it doesn't make me right that I feel that way. Because that's what training staff are designed to do, to put you through hard times, to see what you're made of and test you. And yes, we do treat mental health. At that football club, let me guarantee you, they treat mental health very carefully. And just let me hear, in terms of like what they're trying to build there, they're representing that community of Belmore and Bankstown and all those places. And if you think you go and ask those people in the street if they can't work from 8 till 5 and they get massage at the end of the day,
I
you're
don't
not
agree with
representative
that.
of that community.
I haven't heard one player.
Well, that's
say
what's
they're
being
not happy.
reported. That's what's being reported.
Good work, Buzz. Thanks for coming on, Jimmy. Hopefully we cleared a few things up
I
there.
hope so.
Yeah.